we get anybody else in, they can just kind of hop in. But I want to call the Sites and Facilities meeting to order at 6:02. We have some really exciting information. Another great sites meeting set up by our Chief Operations, Mike Seelig. So without any further delay, I'm going to move it right over to you. So we can get going.
Yeah, pardon me.
Yes.
We can get a list of the people that are here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm here, you, Gladys, Kara,
Jalbert, right?
yep, Jalbert, Seelig, Allison, yep, Brady Johnson, yep, Kate, and Al is phoning in, so Al is here as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Just want to make one quick adjustment here. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. I've got a couple things here. Let's see. There we go. Everybody sees the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, great. So there's really just one item on the agenda for today, overview of current projects and space utilization. The feature today is really going to be talking about what we're going to be doing with 63 Beaverbrook, but then also some options for programs that we also want to get out of leased space around the district. And we've got a few different things that we've been looking at. So we'll run the full committee through those concepts. I just want to be clear, there's nothing here is written. Nothing is set here. We haven't, signed any new contracts or entered into any, negotiations. We are still looking at what is going to be the best options for us. You have to imagine there's a lot of different things to consider, from bus accessibility to, capacity to grow a program, whether the offices are compatible with our needs, and are the neighbors there, okay with having a school and a bunch of kids nearby. So all of these things are sort of swirling right now. And Rich and I have scoped out some good opportunities here. Kara's seen some of them as well, and we'll talk through those. So, all right, let me start here. All right, everybody sees the big slide, sites and facilities?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I want to address just some recent concerns before we dive into it. These were a couple questions that came up in our last board meeting. Board Chair Cooper, I know this was one that you were concerned about, was our no dog signage. So we did receive the signs. They are in, and we'll begin installations next week. We were just waiting on some feedback from the city to make sure that we had all the correct authorizations. So we'll be putting those up, those starting next week.
Thank you.
And I think we've got enough for 2 at every school. So 1 on the playground and then 1 on a field, just where they'll be in clear sight.
And that's on all elementary schools, right?
It'll be on the middles as well. We're going to put some
Okay.
at Rogers, Broadview, and West Side. Yep. All right. And then the other one, I wanted to pay some special attention to this. This was the curb that you were talking about at South Street that was really bumpy. So just for context here, this is the driveway that exits South Street. So if you see that Gulf Station, that's the Gulf Station on Main Street when you're pulling out of South. The buses come out this driveway and then they turn right towards the Gulf Station. And based on this picture, you can probably see what the issue is with the bumpy turn. If you zero in here on this little curb, you can see all the tire marks that are over this. Now, when the buses come out, I talked to our transportation director and I said, listen, is there a way to have the buses swing out a little wider so that rear right tire doesn't catch the curb and then send the bus rocking? And she said, it's really hard to do that because of the size of the buses. If they turn any wider, then they cross the double yellow and they turn into oncoming traffic. So there's a few different things we're going to try to do here. One is Rich is starting to have some conversation with the city to see if it's possible just to grind that down and make it flat with the little driveway apron there next to it. So that's one option. The other option, though, which is actually makes a little bit more sense, it'd be nice if we could do both. But currently, a lot of the buses that turn right out of there have to go follow this green line, and they go up into the Price Right shopping
Mhm.
center. Then they turn out to come back and make a left. The reason for that is you can't make a left coming out of that driveway. So what we're asking the police, we have a call on to the police right now to ask them if we would be able to get an exception for the school buses during pickup and drop off time so that they could come out, make a left, then they wouldn't be driving over that curb. And it would also just create an efficiency for the route. They wouldn't waste the 4 or 5 minutes it takes to go into the Price Right and turn back out. So we're waiting to hear back from them about that. We're gonna have that conversation about grinding down the curb, and then hopefully one or potentially both of those could come into play in the next few months here. So we will keep you posted on that at a later date. But just so you know that that is in conversation, and we're going to work to get it resolved.
Like, before we move on, can we
Yeah.
open up to questions, like each little,
Yeah, sure.
each problem? So, does anybody have any questions on these first two items that we talked about? Nothing?
I've got a question.
Go ahead,
Just,
Rich.
it just comes to mind that when I used to pick up my grandkids at Pembroke, standing outside waiting for the doors to open and the kids to exit for those that didn't ride the bus. But there were parents who brought their little pet, on a leash with them. Now, does this the policy of sign, prevent people from bringing their pets to meet their kids?
Yeah, I mean the posting really, I mean it states on school grounds, and that is the ordinance from the city as well as I understand it from Parks and Rec. Whether that would apply to, say, the parking lot while you're waiting, if it's, on a leash near a car, I don't know if that's a loophole or not. I could certainly look more closely into that and get an answer. But my understanding is dogs are prohibited from school grounds writ large, whether it's the parking lot or the field. But I can look more closely at that for you.
Just something that I had experienced, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention so it's not
Yeah.
a potential problem later on for when these signs go up. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll find out.
Anything else before we can't see everybody? So, okay.
Can I just ask Mike for a question, please?
Sure, of course, Gladys.
Mike, I really appreciate looking into this. My only question is, and I think as looking at the buses when they come out of South Street, and what has been done is on the side of the street, there used to not be any parking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And since they have that parking line, and this started about a year or so when the mayor was doing all this stuff. So when you come out of South Street to turn on Main Street, before you get to that gas station,
Yeah.
cars are loaded, are waiting to go into that food eating place.
Right.
For Dunkin' Donuts. And it's very hard to see because now when you come out of South Street, you can only make a right-hand turn. Unfortunately, I saw a guy the other day making a left-hand turn, but the cops weren't there. But I'm just saying that extra traffic parked there on Main Street creates a lot of visualize that you can't see where you're going and how you get over because you're taking a extra chance just trying to relax and what make sure and catch the light when the people are coming down South Street to get out of that driveway.
Right.
So I don't know if it would be wise to, uh, have a certain time that people park there
Mm.
on
Yeah.
beside those diners and things where they're eating at, and the bus driver can see how they're coming out of there.
Right. Right.
So
Well,
just something a thought. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a very it's very helpful, and you've
Yeah.
obviously seen this, a lot more times than I, as you're there every morning. So let me talk to police to see if there's anything we could do about, maybe there's a no parking sign there at certain hours of the day. Let me talk to them, see if they have any ideas, because you're right that anything we can do to just sort of eliminate traffic around that corner, cars on the street, create better sight lines, would be helpful, because that is a challenging corner, no matter which way you're coming.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
And all our schools most of our schools don't have ample parking.
Yeah.
And that's you talk about South Street, you talk about Park Avenue, Great Plain. There's not enough parking.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I'll put this on the
Okay.
list for my next conversation with the police and see if they have any ideas.
And Mike, can you add to that? Like, I know you suggested when you come out of that driveway to make a left instead of the right.
Yeah.
Is that where the road splits off into, like, it's two lanes?
Boulevard. I think the
Yeah.
boulevard is further up here. Can you see my cursor up
Sorry.
here on the upper left?
Yeah.
So that's where the boulevard starts. So this is just a double yellow line here.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it doesn't split yet, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So it should be. And
So it should be okay if they come out and try to make the left.
yeah, assuming they're okay with it. Now, as I understand it, years ago, before my time here, there was an officer stationed here to hold traffic, to allow the buses to come out. But like I said, that was something I've never witnessed. I've just heard about it anecdotally. So maybe that's a possible solution as well.
Yeah, because I mean, I agree with Gladys. I mean, when, for those of us in the ward here in that area,
Yeah.
that area of Main Street just gets really congested.
Yeah.
To come out and go either way, your sight line is really impaired, whether you're going left or right. It's
Yeah.
out of there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's all about keeping everybody safe.
Safe, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So appreciate that, Mike.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Am I good to move on to the next item?
Yep, move on. Thanks.
Okay, so next we're on to space usage. So this is the thing, the site that we're most concerned about right now, 2 and then 1012 Crosby Street. As everyone knows, this houses 2 different programs for us, the Reach and Endeavor program at 1012 Crosby, and then I'm sorry, at 12 Crosby, and then 2 and 10 houses our We Race adult education program. We've been in these buildings for a number of years. And now that we've explored possibilities of leaving these locations in years past, but just from a combination of finding the right site at the right price, we've just never been able to find the right place. Now that we, as the Board of Ed, have left 63 Beaverbrook, that creates an interesting opportunity for us, because that really is a great building that could house one of these programs. So just a little bit of a recap here. Our total rent in these buildings is about $120,000 a year. So if you just keep that number in mind, and you'll see how the math here starts to work out. So adult education. This is the building here in black on the right. One of the early ideas that we've had is to move this over into 63 Beaverbrook. This really is a good fit for the relocation to 63. There would be an easy conversion of about 4 to 8 of the office suites into classrooms. The estimated costs, we haven't got a full estimate yet from our contractor, but Rich and I are sort of guesstimating here based on other work we've done of similar scope. We'd probably be in about the $150,000 to $200,000 range. Could be lower, could be higher. I don't know. And we think the timeline here could be potentially 6 to 8 months. which would allow the program to be in there and get situated by the start of school next year. Because we own the building, the annual rent would be 0. That's my favorite part about this arrangement. And here's just a little map. So, over here, this is the current Crosby Street location, and then right over here is 63, right above the Red Star Danbury Superintendent. Okay. So this was a kind of a crude drawing we had done a while back, just as we started to explore this possibility. There's still a lot of discussion about whether this is the right drawing. If you remember, all of these pink rooms right now are chopped up into offices. So it would really be just about taking out some of the interior walls, moving a few doors, and we think this could be done pretty simply, and without too much to do. There would have to be some considerations made for things like making sure the electrical is in place, the HVAC is routed properly, and that there's a supply and a return in each space in accordance with the square footage of the room. But we think, just based on the way that it works now with offices, that the majority of those things would be in place. Now, I've put these red dotted lines here because there's still discussion about whether they'd like to break these up into 2 smaller classrooms or just keep them as one big classroom. Rick Reusi has already begun using the old boardroom for some of his weekend events and fairs, just because it's a great space and it's not being used. And we like the fact that people are still in this building. There's nothing worse than a building that just sits unused. Starts to get stale pretty quickly. So this is just one of the schematics. We'd probably leave this office suite as is, and then that would be, the old superintendent suite. That would probably remain as is and be the administrative offices. There was talk about adding a little window here so that the secretary would then be able to buzz people in. Keep this as a little kitchen area, and then potentially this could be a classroom as well. We've talked about doing this in a couple different phases. The first phase being just enough to sort of get Rick and some of his folks in there. And this is probably a little bit more space than he has right now at the current WeRace. It's certainly a more appropriate space. He has better parking options here. The parking's not really good down at Crosby Street, especially since that parking structure came down there behind Mothership. So this is a very, very attractive proposal. And it's something I've mentioned before. What we like about it is the codes that you have to meet, the building codes that you have to meet, are very different for a building when you have adults in there, as opposed to when you have kids in the building. So to have kids in this building would require a whole bunch of changes to electrical panels and fire suppression systems that would send us well into the millions. And a lot of that wouldn't have to be done if we were going to just have it for adult ed, running at sort of a medium capacity. So again, nothing is in writing yet. We've just begun talking to Fryer about some possible plans. We haven't talked to our contractors yet to even try to figure out what the cost would be based on those plans. Everything is still very preliminary, but we're hopeful that this is going to work out. And then we'll have adults ed in a great space that would be rent-free. We would just have to maintain the building and take care of it in the way not dissimilar from the way we take care of Crosby now, with custodians. Of course, this would be our building, so a lot more of the if there was a leak in the roof, things now that we call a landlord for, we would have to take on. But we know the building and we know it's pretty durable, so we feel good about this. Rich, did I miss anything on this one?
No, I think you covered it all. And actually, that it's a city building, I would think that public buildings would take care of the plumbing and HVAC and electrical on that.
You're right. Yeah, that would be city. You're right.
So let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Who owns the building? The city owns the building?
It's the
Yeah.
same as all of our other school buildings. City owns it, and we're not tenant, but it's I guess we're the, what would you say, Rich? We're the operator. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, we're the occupants, I'll say.
That's it.
And so you mentioned a cost, a rental cost of 120,000. What does that pertain to? For the-
That's the current rent over at Crosby Street for those three
Oh,
buildings.
I see. I
Yeah.
got Crosby Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
These-
And
these
the
buildings.
construction cost, since the city owns it, the construction cost would be our cost.
Yeah, though we would, because we would handle anything, relating to our educational program. So
Gotcha. Okay.
putting the classrooms in place, desks, doors, anything like that,
Sure. Okay.
whiteboards, smart boards, all that's going to be on us. Yeah.
Fine.
All right.
Any questions from board members? My quick question, is anything in that building now, or is everything gone?
Oh no, we still have a lot of stuff there. We're still going through our file consolidation. That's going to be an ongoing process, probably over the next couple months. We're trying to, there were just there, not to get too granular about it, but things like payroll had their own files, HR had their own files. So if I was an employee, I had a file in two places. We want to finally put those together, right? So it's not a huge task, but it is time consuming. So we want to start to create those efficiencies, because it'll just make life easier for everybody working too. So we ideally want to do that all in one shot as we move these over. So we're trying to schedule that out so that as they come over, those consolidations are happening. So we're not just dumping boxes into a file room that now people have to go through and can't find things. We want to do it right the first time. So a lot of that is in there, and there's some there's some old stuff in there. I mean, you saw all the old stuff in the boardroom, old textbooks that were on the shelves in there,
Mm.
old copies of, tests and, and yearbooks and things like that. A lot of that we'll probably save and bring over, as sort of archival stuff, but a lot of stuff too that just needs to get tossed. Old learning materials that are, 10, 15 older, years old or more.
Good. So do you have like a timeline of when you would like this to be, if this actually goes through?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would ideally love to see this, really moving probably by, the new year. As the plans come together and we have a construction timeline, that'll help motivate us. If we know that they're going to be in there doing demolition on a certain date, then that'll dictate what our timeline is. But we're ready to expedite it now that everybody seems to be comfortably settled into the new space. And we're still waiting on some new file cabinets and some some things like that are necessary for this conversion to happen. But for the most part, we can, we really have begun it already. It would just be a question of dedicating the time and the staff to sort of accelerate it a little bit.
Now, are we still in a lease with that other building? And how long,
It was my understanding,
are we month to month?
Oh no, we are month to month in Crosby Street.
Okay.
So I think it's a 60-day notice or something like that. More,
Okay, yeah, that was my concern. Okay,
no, we can leave anytime.
excellent.
Mike, in Beaverbrook, I thought we had downstairs the servers and stuff like that where the move.
The what?
to
I'm
high
sorry,
school-
I couldn't hear you.
In Beaverbrook, I thought downstairs we housed the servers for the district.
Yeah.
And are they still there or going to continue to be there?
There is a server room. If you see my arrow here, the server room is right around here. That will stay there. And we have a few different ways to kind of not conceal it, but move the door. There is a maintenance room adjacent to it. And we would make that the entrance way just so anybody who's down there doesn't, find their way in there and mess anything up. But the servers are there. There is discussion of bringing them over to West. But at this time, we're expecting them to stay there for the foreseeable future.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so the second program in Crosby Street is Reach and Endeavor, and that is to a location yet to be determined. So there's a few options for this. There's one possibility here, which is Unit 43A on Beaverbrook. And if you've ever been, this was a space that we were temporarily leasing for about 2.5 years. It's the front area of the building that Rich and his team now have in the back. The facilities team is in the back with offices, and then our warehouse is there. The front of that is offices, and for about 2.5 years, our IT team and our HR team was housed there. That provides some conveniences because our key scan is already in the building, our alarm systems are already in the building. We have access to the building, so we're able to go in there and, you know, take measurements and see what works. The problem is it really is set up for offices, and it would require some internal, you know, demolition and construction. Again, Rich and I sort of are just eyeballing it. We haven't brought anybody in yet, but we think this would probably be in the $150,000 to $200,000 range. Timeline would probably take about 3 to 6 months. And the annual rent on this building, based on the contracts that we had as we previously rented it, would be about $60,000 a year. So roughly half of what we were paying at Crosby Street. So I have some artwork on this one. Oh yeah, so it's here. It's literally just down the street from the old Beaverbrook. And this is some shots of the interior. So when you walk in, it really is kind of split, which is kind of unique. There's a stairwell and a double door that splits the two sides. And I've done the right and left here as you see it when you walk in. If you go to the right, there's this long hallway of offices. That was our HR department for the 2.5 years after they left Beaverbrook. And then there's this sort of big room where IT had kind of all their stuff, the broken computers, the monitors, the keyboards, and everything was just piled up in there. And that's now been relocated to partially the BOE and some of it to the warehouse. If you walked in that building and went to the left, you saw this big room here with all these little offices out to the side. All those walls are there's nothing structural. They don't go up to the roof or anything. They're just, just framing in sheetrock. They'd come down really easily, and we'd be able to open that space up. There's actually a lot of windows around the perimeter. So every room that you had in there would have a nice window and some natural light. So like we said, we like this option because it's inexpensive. It's on a property that is right adjacent to our facilities building. It's on Beaverbrook, so it's a very easy stop for the bus right on Beaverbrook. It would open the door, and the kids would have less than 100 feet to walk to get into the building. We could have dual entrances if we needed to have separate entrances for the middle school kids and the high school kids. The only real drawback here is parking. It wasn't great when we had a lot of adult staff in the building. There was always a few people that had to go drive around and park and back, and then sometimes they'd either just walk up the hill and get their exercise, or they'd walk through the warehouse and come up the steps. But given that there's only about 8 teachers, administrator, custodian, people popping in and out there, we could probably make do with the limited spaces without too much pain. And I think this would divide up nicely, and certainly the price is very attractive. Like I said, it's about half what we were paying at Crosby Street. We know the landlord and have already sort of mentioned the idea of converting this, and he seems to be on board with it. So that is one possibility. 43A at Beaverbrook. Right.
And Mike, would this be considered? I mean, do you have the restrictions in terms of what he was talking about earlier? Building the facility and all the restrictions, that go with the school. Would there be any restrictions like that on this particular facility?
Some of them would, and that would be part of the conversation with the architects as we divvied up. Because we wouldn't own that building, that would then be a conversation with the landlord about whether he'd be willing to upgrade it. But yes, some of those certainly would come into play, and that would be a conversation. Once we had drawings in place, we'd have to sit with the architect and figure out whether it was feasible. So
And I'm also thinking about zoning issues too. I'm not sure, in terms of whether that area is zoned for schools. So
Yeah, Rich, is this zone commercial? Do you know offhand?
I think that's something we would have to look into.
Okay.
thanks.
All right. So that's one option. And this is another option that we saw. We actually just went and visited this property this week. It's over on West Street. If you know where the Social Security office is, there across from Amigos. This is in that building complex there. There's a partially finished office space there that could easily be carved up into classrooms. Estimated cost again, $150,000 to $300,000, depending on what we need to do there and again, code issues and all that. Timeline probably a little bit longer, 6 to 12 months. The annual rent in this space would be almost double what it would be in the Beaverbrook building. It's about $115,000 a year. So this one is over here. Like I said, it's across from Amigos, just west of downtown. And again, this is all very, very preliminary. So if you're getting your bearings here, this is the shopping center with Amigos in it here. This G building here is where Social Security is. Back here, this is VA. So we actually did look at all these buildings here. C is just way too small. There's nothing we could do with that. D was just completely raw. There's nothing in the building. We'd have to install our own doors and toilets and doorknobs and sinks. It would just be cost prohibitive to even explore that. We looked at E, and E is it was used as some sort of lab for the hospital for years, and it's set up as sort of it looks like a very sterile environment. There's kind of lab tables in there. It feels kind of hospital-y on the other side of it. But the bigger problem with this is there's no windows at all in the building. And it doesn't have the right feel at all for a school building. So we didn't want to pursue this one any further. So the one that we're really looking at here is G. It's the second floor of this building. As I mentioned, Social Security is on the first floor, so there are some security guards there provided by the Social Security office. And there is quite a bit of space here. It's about 10,000 square feet. We could have all three of these units or even less than that. And one thing I really liked about this space was that our landlord would be on the third floor. So any issue affecting the building, heat or plumbing, would be affecting the landlord as well, making it a lot harder for them to ignore. They seem to be amenable to having a school in the building. And one of the things they're always concerned about is bus access. And if this is on the right here, this is actually the back of the building. And in talking to one of the building managers, he said that they could make arrangements to knock out a few parking spaces to make sure the bus had room to swing through here, and then we'd have our own little entrance here in the back that the kids would go in. And then if anybody came in on in a wheelchair or crutches or whatever, they could come in the front and use the elevator. So there are some conveniences here that we could take advantage of. Beaverbrook 43 is all on a single level, so handicap accessibility is not really an issue there. There's no need for stairs or an elevator. But here, some of these things get kind of worked out.
Mike, I'm sorry, can I just
Yeah.
ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Louisa, if I may. Where is this in relation? Because I did not go on the visit with you. Where is this in relation to the Harambee Center?
It's a little ways away. So let me go back to my map here.
This is
So-
right before, this is right
Yeah.
before the underpass going up to
Yeah.
Lake Avenue. If you took right after that, you would
Right.
go up to the elementary school.
Probably, I'm guessing this is a half, 3/4 of a mile. Harambe's right around here.
Okay. I'm just thinking because we have a relationship with them, and during the day, I would imagine that their facilities are available for the PE
Yeah.
classes to get the kids out. They have recreational space there.
Yeah.
So just a thought.
No, it's a really good idea. Yeah, probably too far to walk the kids down, but if you had a mini bus running shuttles, it'd be 2 minutes,
Yeah. Okay.
This is what they call Salem Plaza, right?
It, oh gosh, what is the name of it?
Right,
Say
yeah,
it again?
It's a Salam.
Salam. Yeah.
Yeah, Salem,
Salem.
Salem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Salem's on it, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he had passed away, and I think the family still owns it.
The family still does own it, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's yeah, that the realtor said as much. So
Yep.
okay, so this is another option. And the inside, I mean, it looks like a dated office. You know, I think it was a call center or something like that, and a bunch of spaces that we up the carpeting and put some paint in there, and we could certainly make it a lot more conducive to a learning space. But that's what an old 80s 90s office looked like, and if we had if this was the pick, we'd go in there and rip it apart and make sure it looked good for kids. So
I think the IRS has an office there too.
oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a couple federal yeah, somebody else is in there. DCF I think is in there as well. So
They have a vet center there as well.
yeah, that VA that was in the back, that back building off the back lot. This one here below E, that was the VA.
So we'd be able to have that building so there wouldn't be interaction between like people going in for the other businesses and the students, right?
Yeah, so that's why we like this back entrance. This would be just for us, and like I said, unless somebody needed the elevator and needed to go into the front, but we'd swing the buses through here, and the kids would all be directed to the back entrance, and then we wouldn't be any cross-pollination with the.
So
With
the back entrance doesn't have access to the lower level offices?
It does, but there's a door. You would just keep the door locked. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not for the public to use. It's like maintenance or whatever. So.
understood. Okay, thank you.
All right. And again, this is just, we are still in the early exploration stages, figuring out if these even make sense. And this is on the list. So we're staying in touch with this realtor. We're going to be looking at a few more properties in the coming weeks. And we'll step back and do an assessment when it's all said and done, and make sure we have the right decision. So. Okay, so that's all we have so far on Reach Endeavor. I did want to talk a little bit about some other building updates that we have going on, specifically AIS. So we are expecting the population to grow there, the enrollment to grow, whether it's going to be an expansion of the special ed program or an additional kindergarten section. We do not yet know, and we won't know until the year gets a little further along and we see what the early enrollment numbers are starting to look like. However, there is a massive storage room there that is about 23 by 87, and we think that would break up nicely into 2 classrooms. So we've just begun having a conversations with the contractor to see, that we have to take into account all the considerations here, lighting, HVAC, you're going to have to sheetrock the walls, make sure the right doors and natural light are in the area for the kids, carpeting, flooring, all of that stuff, access to the bathrooms, ADA access. So all of those are now, kind of swirling as we start the conversation about what it would take to convert this space. But it's something that we're looking into, and could potentially create space for about 50 more kids at AIS. So.
Quick question. Are there windows down there?
There would.
No, there's
No
no windows.
Yeah.
One of the first things we'd be doing is getting fire architects involved, because it would be a change of use from storage to a classroom space to see what we would need to do to convert it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's actually the end of the presentation. Any questions?
Any questions, committee members, non-committee members? I can't see oh, now I see everybody.
Karen, is this something that we would take into consideration in next year's budget, this construction cost?
Yeah, so,
The
you
hours.
know, everything, you know, depending on how this year goes and how budget goes this year, you know, as we kind of head into the second half of the year, you kind of know where you start to have a sense of where you'll land at the end of the year. And so sometimes we're able to get some smaller projects done and sometimes not. You know, I think what we're trying to do is to be as proactive and be as ready, shovel ready as possible so that we're scoping out space, getting some, you know, understanding of how much places would cost. So like just, you know, having the work done that Mike and Rich has already done to date gives us readies us to make decisions about which projects we might be able to implement this year versus we have to put it in the budget for next year, very deliberately. So just, you know, trying to be as proactive as possible. The conversation at AIS is like very preliminary at this point, but it was just, you know, hey, if we were to pick up another kindergarten class there, you know, because recruitment's going well, you know, how might we use that space differently? Maybe it's not a classroom, but maybe it's a different room. It's a performance room. It could be a PT room, an OT room. If we don't get that enrollment that we're looking for at AIS from the surrounding participating towns, perhaps then we can convert it to more specialized space for other programs that we desperately, you know, need more space for. And, you know, of course, I know there's always concern about students having access to natural light or windows. You know, we would look at the options of, you know, what can we do to get natural light into the room, maybe even, you know, have the glass along the wall as it is in some other places as well. So there's always options for those types of things. But in terms of the budget, Rich, you know, I like to be ready. I've asked Mike, you know, he can attest to it, Seelig and we were like, I want all the things that we need, you know, kind of on deck. Let's be as ready as possible. If we can pick away 4 or 5 of them, partner with the city on a few more, if we have the funds. And if not, then we kick it over to the next year. But it is good to be ready, and to have a good sense of what the needs are, and to start those conversations as early as possible.
Is there any possibility of outside funding, grants, or from state that you can maneuver or get? So as the case in AIS, if you said you were thinking it for special ed, would there be any money that would be given to us for programs like that?
Sometimes
Just
there
from-
are. Oh, I'm sorry, Rich. You're cutting in
I'm
and
just
out a
saying-
little bit, so I didn't know if you were finished.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just
That's
to,
okay.
you know, think out of the box so that it minimizes whatever the impact it has on our pocketbook.
Sure. There's definitely more money on the special education side right now with the state because they are trying to fund more in-house startup programs for special education because that's been a huge concern. And if that was the way that we went, there could be some funds to tap into that. And you know, we'd have to be able, you know, again to be ready to go all the time. What comes down the line when things get posted with the state are basically they don't use the term shovel ready. I'm using the term shovel ready, but you have to already have seen an architect, already have a plan design, you already know the cost and you've estimated it. Your board's aware of it. You can get quick approval on something because the board has already been oriented to the idea and you're not going to go through a lengthy process. So we'll be ready. We're always looking for grants and we're also always looking to maximize current year budget should there be some available funding at the end of the year.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? I want to thank Mike and Rich for putting this presentation together. It's really great to talk about these things but when we actually get to see see it and especially with South Street and all of those things. It helps us to understand pretty much better what the problems are and what solutions you have. So I want to appreciate you for keeping us updated on all of this and putting this all together for us. I know it's a lot of work. It really helps better us understand, and keep up to date with what's happening. So thank you to all.
My pleasure.
If we have, Kara, did you want to say something? Okay. If we have no other questions, if I can have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
And motion made by Rich, second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Gladys. Okay, then we will call